This is Miss Boo. In 2021, something very strange happened. I was vacationing at the seaside with my son and his girlfriend. The beach was crowded. We weren't right next to the water, but a little further away, so I decided to take a photo. My son's friend and I walked about 15 meters away, where there were fewer people. I stepped into the water. The beach was rocky, the bottom too, so I was wearing simple rubber flip-flops. And then a wave came in. One of my flip-flops slipped off. I tried to grab it, but I lost my balance and fell. Another wave washed over me. My friend helped me up. I scraped my knees, and the slipper was gone. I stood there for a moment, wondering how I would walk back to the hotel with just one flip-flop. Eventually, I turned around and walked back to our spot, wearing only one. When I got there, my son was sitting on our blanket, and right next to him was my other slipper, the one that had floated away. I asked him, "Where did this come from?" And he said, "It was lying right here." What was that?
One time, I was standing in front of my bed, where my iPad was sitting. Out of nowhere, I saw it float a few inches into the air and completely disappear. I'm not joking. I have no rational explanation as to how this could have happened. I couldn't find it for the longest time, but then one day, it mysteriously appeared in my mom's car about 6 months later. I spent those 6 months looking for it, and I couldn't find it anywhere. I never really took my iPad into my mom's car unless we were going somewhere, so it usually stayed at home. Even then, it would have been in a bag or something. I wouldn't have had it loose in the car. My mom didn't believe me for a long time, but recently she texted me saying she did, which is what reminded me of this story. She now believes in parallel universes and apologized for not believing me. I thought this was the weirdest occurrence for a long time, and I couldn't explain it until I learned about glitches in the Matrix and alternate timelines. It's the only explanation I can think of for why this happened. I don't have any other stories like this, and I know it isn't the most insane one out there, but I wanted to share it to see what other people think. Does this sound like a glitch in the Matrix or something else?
This happened when I was 5 years old. One night, I woke up at around 2 in the morning because of a noise coming from the kitchen. When I went there, my mum was sitting at the table. She used to work late, so it wasn't unusual for her to come home around 3. She was sitting there, slowly sipping her coffee. I remember I wanted to say something to her, but the moment I looked back at the place where she was supposed to be, there was no one there. She was just gone. I was really confused. I thought maybe I had imagined it, so I stayed in the kitchen for a bit, had some water, and then the front door opened. My mum walked in from outside. She was wearing her jacket, holding her bag, still in her boots. I have no idea what that was, but back then, it scared the hell out of me.
I'm a chef, and I've basically spent my whole life in the kitchen with my mom and my grandma. That's actually why I became a chef. But anyway, recently I was visiting my mom. She was cooking cutlets with mashed potatoes, my favorite. But then I noticed something strange. She added an egg into the mashed potatoes. Now, I know some people do that, but neither my grandma nor my mom, and definitely not me, had ever done that before. I mean, never. But now, somehow, it turns out that my mom and grandma had supposedly been doing it their whole lives, and I know for a fact that wasn't true. It seems like such a small thing. I even argued with her a little about it, but then it hit me, and I just pretended I forgot about it. But I didn't forget. I remember it clearly. So now, you tell me, am I the real one or not?
Hi. So about a month ago, I bought a special moisturizer I really needed. It was pretty expensive, so it took me a while to save up enough money to get it. I've been using it either in the bathroom after a shower or sometimes in my bedroom, so I would carry it back and forth. Yesterday, I decided to organize everything in my bathroom, cupboards, shelves, all of it, so I knew exactly where I had placed the moisturizer. And I hadn't used it since, so I knew it was there. Then today, I decided to organize my makeup and skincare. I opened a box, and there it was. The exact same moisturizer, just sitting on top with my makeup. I just stared at it for a moment, confused. Then I picked it up to make sure it was the same one. And my mind started racing, trying to figure out if maybe I had imagined putting it in the bathroom, or if I had brought it into my room and somehow blocked that memory out. So I ran to the bathroom, still holding it, and sure enough, there was another bottle, sitting exactly where I had placed it the day before. I have no idea how that's possible. I know for a fact I didn't buy two. I had only saved enough money to buy one, and I bought it as soon as I could. There's no way I accidentally bought it twice. I can't explain it. It's the biggest glitch in the Matrix I've ever experienced.
I was on vacation, and you know how people sometimes say, "Hey, I saw someone who looks just like you," and they never actually do. Well, this time was different. I was walking in the Caribbean, and I saw a guy who looked exactly like me. Same hair, same beard, same face, even the same build. My friend literally stopped dead in their tracks. We walked past each other, and then, about 10 feet later, we both stopped at the same time, and we both turned around at the same time. We just stood there, staring at each other for a few seconds. Then, we kept walking. My friend said it before I even could. That guy looks exactly like you, and honestly, I can't stop thinking about it. I wonder if he tells the same story. Maybe, somewhere, right now, he's describing me the exact same way.
This is a fairly mild glitch compared to some of the other stories out there. It happened a few years ago, but I was thinking about it recently and decided to share it. I was driving down the highway with my boyfriend. He was behind the wheel, and I was in the passenger seat. It was daytime, clear, sunny, and I was just looking out the window, watching the scenery go by. Then I noticed something. A black plastic shopping bag floating in the wind. I'm terrible at judging distances, but it looked really high up, maybe as high as a 5-story building. So I kept watching it. It was moving exactly how you'd expect a plastic bag to move in the wind, but something about it felt off. I couldn't explain it, but I couldn't look away either. After about a minute, right in front of my eyes, the bag suddenly transformed. It turned into a black bird and flew away. It was one of the strangest things I've ever seen. It wasn't far away like some blurry shape. It was clearly a plastic bag, until it was just as clearly a bird. And the weirdest part, my reaction. I was so calm about it. I just thought, that's weird, and that was it. Like I hadn't just witnessed something that completely breaks reality. I've had other strange, spooky things happen in my life, but this one I can confidently call a glitch in the Matrix.
Well, alright. I guess I'll share my story. I've never told anyone about it before. People would have probably thought I made it up. It happened one late evening, back in 1996. The power was out, like it often was back then. So my mom and I were sitting by candlelight, playing cards. And then, from the next room, the living room, we heard it. A loud, horrible crash of glass. Like a window had just been shattered. I froze. I looked at my mom, and she calmly said something like, "Ugh, the glass shelf probably broke, and the dishes fell." We didn't go check right away. There were only about 10 minutes left before the power would come back on, so we decided to finish the game, and then look when the lights were on. And when we finally went to see, There was nothing. Nothing had happened. The windows were fine. The shelf was intact. Everything was exactly as it should be. My mom and I just stood there, staring at each other, completely frozen. I felt this wave of fear, and she had the same look on her face, confused and shaken. To this day, that moment still haunts me. I'm 35 now, and I still can't explain it.
Many years ago, something happened to me. I was home alone with my child. The baby was asleep, and I was in the bathroom, washing diapers. And then I felt something in my stomach, like a small click. Not pain, just a strange sensation. I looked down and saw it, a tiny hole. It looked like it had been made by a knitting needle. Somehow, my brain just brushed it off, like, okay, it's just a hole. But the next day, it started to hurt. So I went to the hospital. When they asked what happened, I didn't know what to say. I guessed maybe I got bitten by a tick while walking in the park with my child. I mean, what else could it be? They put me on the examination table. The surgeon looked at it, didn't say a word, and called in another doctor. Then they said, "Tell us what really happened. We won't report you to the police." I told them the same thing, maybe a tick, and they said, "What are you talking about? This is a stab wound, about 12 centimeters deep, and to prove it, they inserted surgical scissors into the wound." I went numb. I couldn't say anything because I was in complete shock. They treated it somehow and sent me home. I had a small child, so they didn't keep me there. My husband even asked me, "Are you hiding something from me?" After some time, it got worse. Infection, pain. I had to go back to the hospital. They cleaned it, treated it. It was a nightmare. I kept going back for dressings, and every time it was a different doctor. I never saw the same one twice. In the end, all my relatives and friends knew about what happened. But when we checked the hospital records, there wasn't a single record of me being there. Not one. But the scar is still there.
I had a strange experience as a teen, and I still can't explain it today. Keep in mind, this was over 15 years ago. Back then I was really into movies, and I would almost daily go to my local Cineworld in Gloucester, UK. I had an unlimited membership card, so I could watch as many movies as I wanted. I'd gotten into the habit of watching part of a film, leaving to hang out with friends or do something else, and then returning the next day to watch the rest. This is what I did that day. I came in, and the entrance area was empty, except for 2 staff members. One was behind the counter, the other sitting on a bench near the podium where you hand in tickets. After getting my ticket for the other half of the film, I walked over to the podium. The woman sitting down got up to take my ticket and pointed me to the doors to the screen where the movie was supposedly playing. I went in, but what I found was an empty screen. No people, no movie, the lights were on. Confused, I assumed she had pointed me to the wrong screen, so I left the screen, still holding the door open, and told the woman that it was empty. She exclaimed, "Really?" with a look of disbelief. She walked past me, through the still open door. I turned to follow, when I noticed the lights were off. As I got to the back of the seating area, the film was playing, and people were in their seats. She looked at me like I had wasted her time, and I gave her an awkward "thank you" as she passed, as if she had somehow fixed it. I stood there for a few moments, trying to put everything together logically in my head. I couldn't, and eventually I went home. That's my time slip story. I have no idea if it was time travel, a hallucination, an elaborate practical joke, a glitch in the Matrix, or even swamp gas hitting a weather balloon. Either way, they moved to a new shopping centre nearby not long after.
The tiniest glitch ever happened to me just a few hours ago. I randomly got a cut on my thumb while baking. About an hour later, I looked back at it because I had been careful not to touch anything. Didn't want to feel the discomfort, but there was no cut, not a single drop of blood. Nothing. Zilch. Nada. Zip. Bupkis. There was no sign that I had ever cut myself. And no, I didn't put a bandage over it. There's just no way a cut can completely vanish like that. Is there a plausible explanation? Has anyone ever experienced a glitch like this, with a wound or scar disappearing?
Every Christmas, we have these elves that I move around for my younger siblings. Most people move them overnight, but I like to move them throughout the day. Anyway, last Christmas, my little brother and I were decorating the Christmas tree with our ornaments. The day before, I bought the baby version of the elf on the shelf to surprise him. As we were decorating the tree, I snuck the baby elf onto it, so that in 10 minutes, I could act like it came straight from the North Pole. 10 minutes later, I acted shocked and showed it to him. He was thrilled. We both looked away for literally 5 seconds, and then he said something. He looked at the couch beside us and said, "But the baby elf is there." In that moment, I didn't understand what he meant, but then I looked at the couch, and somehow, the elf was there. I quickly looked back at the tree, and it was gone from its original spot. To this day, I still don't know what that was, but it scared the hell out of me. And just to clarify, I did not move it, it didn't fall, my brother didn't touch it. It literally teleported. Weird.
A few years ago, something happened to me on vacation, and it has stayed with me ever since. We were on holiday on the Greek island of Rhodes. One afternoon, we went to the beach. The beaches there are mostly made of pebbles rather than sand, so I had brought a pair of brightly coloured water shoes with me. They were flexible, surf-style shoes, with fairly heavy rubber soles. My son and I walked into the sea together. It was a windy day, creating noticeable waves and a strong surge in the water. At one point, I suddenly felt that one of my water shoes had slipped off my foot. A moment later, I saw it floating on the surface. I grabbed it and handed it to my son. He started playfully throwing it across the water, trying to make it skip like a flat stone. But after one of those throws, the shoe disappeared between the waves. Because of the rough water, it sank almost immediately. I searched around, but I couldn't find it anywhere. Eventually, I walked back out of the sea, slightly annoyed, with only one shoe left on my foot. Because the wind was blowing toward the shore and the waves kept rolling in, the three of us walked along the waterline, hoping the shoe might wash up somewhere, but we never found it. The next day, we returned to the same beach. The weather was sunny, but the wind and waves were still strong. My partner decided to go swimming, roughly where I had lost the shoe the day before. Meanwhile, my son and I went to a small Greek restaurant a bit back from the beach, still parallel to that same stretch of sea. We got a table on the first floor, an open balcony with a clear view of the beach. From there, we could see my partner swimming in the distance. While waiting for our food, I occasionally looked toward the water. Then, something happened that still feels strange to me. About 3 meters behind my partner, I suddenly saw my lost water shoe shoot up out of the sea. It didn't slowly float, it burst upward, rising roughly a meter above the water before falling back and starting to drift on the surface. I immediately stood up and started waving from the balcony to get my partner's attention. At first, she didn't understand. After a few more gestures, pointing toward the water behind her, she finally turned around. There it was, the shoe, floating right there. She swam over, picked it up, and brought it back to the beach. What fascinates me is that despite the wind, the waves, the constant movement of the sea, the shoe somehow stayed in roughly the same area for about 24 hours. And at the exact moment I happened to look toward the water, it shot up to the surface again. It was a small, simple event, but the timing, the coincidence, made it feel strangely remarkable.
So, a couple months ago, I went shopping and decided to buy a cute top for $25. I remember feeling really guilty about spending that much, but I wanted to match with a friend, so I thought, screw it, I'll buy it. I loved this top so much. I've been wearing it quite often since, at least twice a week. This morning, around 6:30 a.m., I had to go to work, and I planned to wear that top again. I was looking through my closet, and as soon as I pulled it out, another top fell out. The exact same top. Same size, everything. At first, I thought I was just tired. I'd only slept 5 hours. Maybe I was imagining it. So I went to take a shower to wake myself up. When I came back, the extra top was still on my bed. Here's the thing. I know it's not my friend's top. We're different sizes, so it's definitely mine. I also know I didn't accidentally buy a second one. The store scans everything, and it was security tagged. I only paid $25. Checked my bank records, and I've never washed both tops at the same time. Otherwise, I would have noticed. I also don't shop there often, so I know I didn't buy it earlier. I even called my friend, and she confirmed I only bought one top that day. I still have no idea where the extra top came from. But I'm not complaining.
Back in 1993, early February, my husband came home from work and said that his mother had called and told him that his sister had given birth to a boy weighing 3,500 grams and named him Roman. I thought to myself, not really a name I would choose, but that's not my business. 3 days later, my husband came home again and once more excitedly told me that his mother had called, that his sister had given birth to a boy. I interrupted him and said, "Weight 3,500. Named Roman. You told me that 3 days ago." He froze. "Who told you the weight? And that his name is Roman?" I told him. "You did." He was completely astonished. "How could I have told you? He was only born today. My mother called me near the end of my workday." And there I was, completely stunned, because I remembered every detail, exactly as if he had told me 3 days ago. He was born on the 10th, but I already knew on the evening of the 7th.
This is such a small story, but I've never experienced a glitch in the Matrix before. And honestly, it scared me. I told a couple of friends right after it happened, but they didn't believe me and kept coming up with ideas of what really occurred. That frustrated me, so I need to put this out into the world. Maybe someone can tell me I'm not crazy. At the beginning of March, my birthday was coming up, so I decided to take myself on a small trip to celebrate. I booked a hotel in Leavenworth, Washington for 3 nights. The first night was great, no issues. The second night, I needed to cut some medical tape, and instead of ripping it, I decided to use cuticle scissors from a tiny nail kit. I used the scissors, then set them down. The third night, I picked those scissors up, and as soon as I put my fingers in the holes, the scissors just fell apart. I was irritated, but they were cheap, had been used a lot, and I'd had them a long time. I looked closely at them, trying to see if I could fix them. The bracket holding the screw that joined the 2 parts had cracked in half, and there was no way to repair them. I was so annoyed at the thought of buying a new pair that I set them down and walked away. The next morning, I picked up both broken parts, wrapped them carefully in bags so they wouldn't cut through the trash bag or hurt housekeeping staff. I picked up the nail kit, stared at it, wondering if I should throw it out too. I decided not to, and threw it back into my makeup bag. I got home that day. 5 more days passed. I unpacked my suitcase, didn't touch my makeup bag or nail kit. While doing chores, I noticed a big string hanging off my scarf. I thought, I better cut this off. As I walked to the bathroom, I realized, oh wait, I threw the scissors out, but something told me to check my makeup bag. I opened it, took out the nail kit, and there they were. The scissors I had thrown away, unbroken, exactly as they had been. I tried to remember. Had I bought a backup pair? No, I had only ever bought that one kit, just for those scissors. I examined them, the bracket, the little hairs from trimming my eyebrows, the grime. Every detail was exactly the same. They were the exact same pair. I was so scared. I threw them back into the makeup bag. I've checked a few more times. They haven't vanished yet. That's the end of my story. Somehow, these broken scissors, thrown away miles from home, showed up in my bag, unmarred. I don't know what to think, but if anyone else has a story like this, I'd love to hear it.
If this story gave you chills, don't forget to subscribe, because the next one might be even worse.